Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
And now it is time for the ultimate segment of Liberty Nation Radio, which we entitle Talkin Liberty. It's when we welcome back our regular contributor, constitutional lawyer and LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor, and mostly the man we like to call our guardian of individual liberty, Scott Cosenza. Hello, Scott.
Well, I sure like it when you say it too, Tim. I'm great, and thank you for having me again.
Amy Coney Barrett ascends to the Supreme Court. This is a monster story which has been subsumed by the election and the pandemic and urban violence and all the rest. Tell me your thoughts about Amy Coney Barrett and the state of the Supreme Court right now.
Well, I think I sent you a message the night that they announced when the vote would take place. And I said, amidst all this other noise and just bombardment of other headlines in the news, this, I think, has the potential to be one of the most consequential events of 2020. So viewed in the hindsight of 10, 20 years from now, what are the big deals? I think this may be one of those big deals, Tim, because of what I foresee as Coney Barrett's rulings on major issues. We now have a situation where the Supreme Court of the United States functions almost like a super legislature, where they make rules about who can live or die, who can be killed or not killed, depending on how you see the abortion argument, whether you can have the right to keep and bear arms or not, quite literally the right to defend oneself. So many of these things are decided by one person's vote at the Supreme Court, and one of those people has changed, and in a big way, we think. And so that's it.
Now, the moment that Justice Barrett took the court, Justice Barrett joined the court, she was immediately faced with a couple of election mail-in ballot issues, and she did not participate in the voting on either one, both of which were favorable decisions for the Democrats. Why didn't she participate?
Well, I think all we can say so far about her participation is that it was that she did not participate as a result of a recusal. She hasn't said, I can't hear these cases because of a conflict of interest, real or perceived, or some other thing, right? All we know is that she didn't participate in them. So I presume that there is nothing nefarious. I suspect that, she's moving her many children and family to D.C. and managing all that, along with her work on the court, which does require substantial readings and hiring of clerks and all this other stuff. So it wouldn't be odd to hear later on that she said, no, I'm not able yet to hear cases as a member of the court because I still haven't, figured out where the bathrooms are.
Look, let me ask you this question. The court's now seen 3 mail-in ballot challenges from Republicans in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, but the decisions have been all over the map. The latest
Yes.
2 favorable to the Democrats. What's the difference in the calculations of the court between these 3 states?
And that's right. The way to think about it is 3 states, not 3 decisions, because there's multiple cases and issues in each one at the state and federal level. So in Wisconsin, a federal judge ordered a change to the election law to add more days of counting ballots. And the Supreme Court struck that down. It was a 5-3 decision. Justice Roberts voting with the conservatives to say that it is wrong to change election rules this close to an election for a multitude of reasons, all the reasons that you don't need to be a fancy Supreme Court justice to understand, Tim. It sows wild confusion. It's impossible for local authorities to react and make changes to comport with the law. It's a recipe for disaster, and that's why they shouldn't do it. Now, by that same measure, Justice Roberts is loath to say to state authorities that they can't manage their own election affairs. And that includes by rulings from state Supreme Courts. So the other 2 states are Pennsylvania and North Carolina. And in Pennsylvania, that case involves a state Supreme Court and their unilateral rewriting of election law. and basically saying people can have more days to count ballots. In North Carolina, it wasn't the state Supreme Court, Tim, it was the State Board of Elections that decided to rewrite election law there and add more days to the counting of ballots. Now, all that said, I have to hasten to add, none of those things, and I know that it's kind of like, well, yeah, but it's going to be too little too late. But I think it's a very important point. The justices who have voted on the other side of these things haven't said that it's okay what the state election board or the state Supreme Court have done. They've just said that they're not willing to grant emergency relief on the issue to the other side. And so these things may come back to the court, Tim, the day after the election. I suspect we haven't seen the last of it.
Okay, let's go to your favorite place in the world, though you always make sure to add the rejoinder that it doesn't mean that you approve of the current city government there. But in Philadelphia, another incident of a black man being shot by cops, and riots ensued. And not a good time for Joe Biden. Urban violence springing up again in a critical swing state in a critical city, Philadelphia. But tell us about the shooting of Walter Williams and why it had to happen.
The cradle of liberty, Tim, is that is where these events went down, and it's not a good place to be now. And I think it's not a good place to be primarily because of the political leadership. The mayor there has decided to let rioters and looters run amok. I can't imagine why. In any case, the reason why the man had to be shot was because he had a knife on him and he was charging at police officers. And I just think that it's important for, I wish the city fathers would say this. I wish that the chief outlaw, that's not a pun, that's the name of the commissioner of the Philadelphia Police Department, Ms. Outlaw. She should get out there and say to people, you cannot, no matter what, if you charge police officers with a knife and you're within, a certain distance, the danger zone, you're going to be shot. And that's because the police have no other option there, Tim. The option is to kill or be killed, quite literally, or suffer grievous bodily wounds, which no police officer can be asked to suffer for the community.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Tim.
Scott Cosenza, LibertyNation.com legal affairs editor.